Okay, so good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone. I hope we are doing great today, and I hope we had a pleasant Friday. So for today, we'll be having a bi-weekly webinar session, and it is as usual, but today our facilitator, because of time, will be going straight into the notebook of today. So for those joining us for the first time, I would like to introduce us to Data Science Nigeria, which is the mother body for this, in which this community is under. So Data Science Nigeria, we have an aim or a mission to raise 1 million AI talents and build AI solutions across Africa and the world, serving over 2 billion people in the emerging markets. Also, having known about Data Science Nigeria, let's get to know about the community, the geospatial community bit. The geospatial community is part of our mission to raise the 1 million AI talents in 10 years. So it is also one of our communities more focused on the geospatial technologies. We also have different communities as well. We have bespoke communities for females, which is called the DSN Ladies in AI, and we also have the general DSN community. So for this is the geospatial community where we are having our geospatial class today. So for today, let me introduce our facilitator in person of Godwin Adegbende. He is a data analyst and a machine learning engineer at Data Science Nigeria, and you'll be taking us on this wonderful hands-on exercise today. So please join me in welcoming Godwin to have the floor. Godwin, are you sharing your screen? Okay, awesome. So please, can anyone confirm you can see Godwin's screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Thank you. So Godwin, you have the floor. So you can start by telling us the topic, and maybe you can do a brief introduction before we go into the topic or the deep dive. Thank you. So if you have any questions, you can drop the questions on the chat. I'll be there to take any of your questions. Thank you. Hi, Godwin, you are muted. You're muted.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone.
Okay, we can hear you now. We can hear you now. Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. You're welcome to another special bi-weekly webinar, and it's going to be an interesting session, which I hope you will find very interesting. Although the topic says remote sensing, use of satellite remote sensing from pixel to vegetation insights. Today I thought about switching it up because we've done a lot of satellite imagery data. So why not use drone data? And that's what made me change the topic to multispectral image processing for precision agriculture. So one of the hands-on that we're going to be having today, before we even do the deep dive, is how farms and large farms or agricultural companies leverage geospatial with the use of drone imagery. And we're going to be seeing very interesting insights on how they go about that and how we use or how you can use geospatial data science to interpret, analyze, and provide value for farmers, and especially in precision agriculture. So I hope you will follow along, and I hope you can get a lot of learning from this. All right, so today we are going to be talking about UAV multispectral image processing for precision agriculture, as I've said earlier, and we please just confirm you can see me scrolling my screen. I just need to be very sure of that.
Yeah, we can see it.
All right, so today we're going to understand the structure of multispectral drone imagery, which is all about capturing imagery from drones. And for people that are new here, for people that really don't know much about geospatial, let me just give a little bit of foundation before we go into a lot of complexity. So there's an aspect of geospatial data science that is called remote sensing. Remote sensing is the science of collecting information about the Earth's surface without being in direct contact with it. And how does remote sensing work? It works by using sensors that are mounted, especially on satellites and drones, to capture these Earth surfaces. And I'm sure you are aware of that, of how satellites can capture a lot of details about the Earth's surface. And this aspect of geospatial is called remote sensing. And so there's an aspect of it that we're going to explore today, which has to do with using drones. So instead of going to farms to ascertain the health of your crops or your vegetation, you can make use of drones that carry these sensors to actually capture, to detect the reflected or emitted energy, which is what it takes in that can actually give you this. Some of the use cases are measuring the health of your crop, so you can ascertain, oh, this crop is unhealthy, these crops are not growing well, just from the images that are captured from the drones. And also, it can be used to track deforestation. So that's by design. So multispectral just means that the data that is captured by the drone is captured in a lot of broad wavelength band. So I'm sure you know about spectrum, which is spectrum. So there are a lot of wavelengths. I know most of us are aware of electromagnetic spectrum. And spectrums are like a band of wavelengths. So some of these wavelengths or bands that are being captured by these drones are what is referred to as multispectral drone imagery, because most of the data are characterized by the bands, the type of bands it captures. So here we are going to load and visualize multi-band DJI drone images using raster and matplotlib. Multi-band DJI drones these particular drones are very good for precision agriculture. That was why I added a brand name. So you can use any drone, but most of the drones that I know that they use for precision agriculture are usually DJI because they are very good. And so we're going to compute and interpret vegetation indices. So all these details, we're going to go into it, right? So this is just to give us a very good snapshot of what we'll be talking about today, of how drones and satellite imagery, there are key differences. So satellite images is from a long distance. So we're talking about the space, capturing data from the space. But drones are like maybe 50 to 120 meters. And that shows that they have a closer capture of the details better than satellites in some cases. So whenever you want extreme details, especially on farms, it is usually advisable you go for drone remote sensing, or most of the time we call it unmanned aerial vehicle. And as I've explained, the electromagnetic spectrum, which are like different wavelengths of it. So these are particular wavelengths and bands that are usually captured by these drones to capture this area imaging. So most of the data or most of the images that are gotten from it usually have this wavelength. So they capture it in blue, green, red edge, and near infrared. And each of these bands, they contain something that represents whatever we're looking for. So for blue, so once you see an image of blue wavelengths, you can detect, oh, this is good. This actually, apologies, please. This actually shows the presence of water. And if you look at the green wavelength of the image, you can see the sensitivity of the plant pigments. And I'm going to be showing a few examples in this class. So this is just like a brief example of how the camera looks like. I'm sure most of us would have seen something like this. So in a farm or as a geospatial analyst, if you are to carry out analysis, or if a farm requires your expertise to analyze the condition of their farm crops, maybe they have close like 20 hectares of land, they can't be moving around and be measuring to ascertain. They will likely use a drone to capture a lot of the details. And then it is now your duty as a geospatial analyst or a geospatial data scientist to actually kind of analyze this data. And this is the reason why this course is showing you how multispectral analysis is being done. So you can see that from the camera, it captures 5 main bands in the electromagnetic spectrum: the near infrared, the red and the red edge, and the green. So not to bore you with a lot of details, because I'm still going to add more explanation to it once we get to the hands-on. So this notebook will be shared, and that's why I had to make it very detailed so that the key insights are, so once you're running the code, you can actually read in between the lines and you can understand, rather than me having it on the slide, then before moving over to the code. So it's easy to share. So once I share this, you can also run it online, and also good for revisions to pick up few details and knowledge. So yeah, let's move on to the hands-on. We are setting up our environment. First thing, as we all know, rasterio. So rasterio is like is a Python library usually used in the geospatial field. It is used to analyze, write, or read raster data, and it's a very dynamic tool. It's a very dynamic library, which I really prefer, especially for this kind of analysis. And it's very powerful too. NumPy, Matplotlib, I'm sure you are all aware of it. And then we move on to importing our libraries, which we will do. So just a few divergence. So the data that we're going to use in this analysis, most raster data are usually heavy. And the reason why I say that they're usually heavy is because they are usually captured in a format that is very heavy in size. So I would love to kind of like explore the details for us in this class so that it's easier to follow. So you just permit me to stop sharing this slide so that I can share my folder with you so you can see how the data is how the data is from my own personal folder. So in this class, I'm just going to share the link for you to download the data, so that it doesn't take much time. I think the data was about 1.1 gig to load. So so this is just to help with the explanation on the, okay, let me show this. Yeah, so this is me. Please confirm you can see it.
We can see your screen.
All right, beautiful. So what I want to say now is that now that this data is seated, so this data was actually collected in Cote d'Ivoire from a farm, and I think it was about 20 hectares of land. And then you ask me, how would you collect so much images? How will the drone collect drone images? 20 hectares of land. It's going to take a longer time. And how will this data, or how will this image be represented and be organized, right? And there's one downside about drone images, that they are not georeferenced. For example, some of them are not georeferenced, because if you take a snapshot of this, there's no geospatial representation of latitude, longitude of this. It's just a snapshot of that particular area. So what most drone pilots do, most professionals that handle those on the manned area vehicles, they will divide the land into plots, right? And each plot, they're going to divide it by tabs. So I'm going to show you a brief description of how they organize this data and how it is being represented. As I've said earlier, there are 2 cameras most of these drones capture, especially the ones that are used for precision agriculture. They capture the RGB, and then they capture the multispectral. So the multispectral usually have something called grayscale. So I'm going to open the file, which is going to help you to. So I'm just going to open multi. Multi is a multispectral camera. So let me open this. Please confirm you can see an image.
Yeah, we can see multiple images.
Okay, multiple images. So let me just reshare the full screen for this. Yeah. So please confirm you can see this.
Yeah, we can see it, yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah, that's good. So let me move it. So you can see a lot of you can see the crops. And I don't know if anyone can help me. How many farm crops can you see here? Okay, you know what? Let me go to. So this is what is called multispectral images. Let me list this. So you will notice that the first image this first image and this second image are alike. Please confirm if you are following me.
Yes, we are.
Yes. So you can see the first image, and the second image is alike. So this means that the camera captured different bands from those images at different wavelengths. And you can see. So you can see three representation of, so this is 1, 2, 3. And there's a lot of highlights in different images that is being captured. So that's just from one picture. So they captured 3 wavelengths or 3 bands of, because the images are represented in different spectrum. Then we see another one. This is the 4th one. And then this is the 5th one. So this is another image. So we have 5 images of the same shot, but what is captured from the drone is different. And this is what we'll be analyzing and putting together to give us as much insight as we can get. So we can see this is 1 again. This is the 2nd of the same picture. This is the 3rd of the same picture. This is the 4th of the same picture. And this is the 5th of the same picture. So you can see that they only captured a section, and each section they took 5 different shots that highlighted a lot of stuff, which we'll be analyzing. And then this is the 3rd part. This is the 3rd piece of, this is the 3rd area of land that they captured. They took 5 different shots with different highlights. And then we'll move to another one. This is the 4th. So I'm just going to explain more about this, but just to give you a lot of context as we move along. So yeah, let me share my screen again. So I've talked about the image multi. As I've said earlier, in this data, they captured the image multi, which is the multispectral data. And then we have the optic image. So, and if you remember, I said that there are 2 cameras that are mounted on the drone. One is to capture the RGB, which is red, green, the colored one that shows the natural color, which I am showing you. And one is to capture the multispectral image data, right? So let me just do this. Let me just open this. So now we have the colored version, or the natural color of the multispectral. I hope we are getting this. I hope it's not confusing. Please, I want a response from the audience. Hope it's not confusing. Please, a response will do so that I will know we are all on track.
Sorry, can you explain again, please?
Absolutely. I hear what you're saying, Karu.
Yes. So, okay, let me just give a very brief explanation on it. On the drone has 2 cameras, right? One is the RGB that captures this, which is colored, and one is the multispectral that captures the the spectrum, the bands of different wavelengths. And in the one that has black or white or grayscale as it is represented, I mentioned that in that folder, there are 5 different shots of the same picture, of this color. But what is captured is the different wavelength, different band of the image. Because this is very important when we are analyzing for, maybe we want to detect if the crop is healthy or not, or if we want to detect, if we want to do crop health monitoring on a farm. For example, you go, as I made mention in the illustration that I made, that maybe you have a 2-acre piece of land and you have crops there. You won't be walking about to ascertain the health. Okay, are these crops, are they growing fine? Are they doing well? Most of the time they will employ drone imagery, and this drone imagery will be analyzed to get insights from them. So that's just the whole explanation of that. So before we proceed, I don't know how many type of crops can we ascertain for this if you are very versatile with crops. So there are 3 different crops that are here. So I can see an oil palm. There's still 2 others that are here. So if there's no answer in 10 seconds, I'll just keep it moving and then I'll say it after the end of the class. All right, let me just give a very brief explanation on that. So you see the deep green one, that's an oil palm. That's an oil palm. Then you see the one that has very short green leaves. Those are plantain or banana. And then you see those short ones, very short ones that are compact like this. I don't know, it's hard. I don't have an highlighter. They are actually cocoa plants, yeah. So most of the time in a cocoa plantation, they do what they call mixed cropping. You don't find just cocoa there. They mix different crops, which actually helps the use of land and actually kind of like optimizes the soil health too. So let's go back to our code. I just hope that I've been able to give a little bit of context rather than just showing code so that we all understand that we're all on the same page. All right. As I've said, the multispectral drone saved each spectral band. As I've said, band 1, which is the first shot, we capture the blue one. The band 2, which is the second shot of the same image, we capture the green one, and then the red edge, and the NIR. We're going to be doing a lot of analysis on it. Then this is just to help us to kind of like load the data.
Can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, I can hear you.
So it's just to inform you that we have less than 20 minutes for this session because we'll be closing soon. Thank you.
All right. I'm on. Okay, we are almost to the end, almost close to the end. So this is just to examine the band and the width. So what we did here was to take one image because we have over 52 images, especially in the oblique folder that has the RGB. So this is just to kind of like show you a little bit of details about it. So to visualize it, I'm going to be showing you each individual visualization of different, so my code is still loading. Yes. So from that same image, once we analyze it and then we extract the blue band out of it, you can see areas that, because of how the land is, the water penetration may be likely. That is what can be seen from afar from the drone. And then we look at the green band to see how pigmentation is being reflected from this image. And you can notice that most of the pigmentation that are actually coming from the cocoa aspect, and they're actually very dense at the middle. And then you see the light faint green one, which shows the oil palm. So if you've seen an oil palm before, and you can imagine it seeing it from the top, you confirm that this is an oil palm. and also for the red band. And the reason why we are showing this is because different bands, and that's the whole essence of remote sensing, different bands of wavelengths shows different insights and different metric that can be analyzed on the farm. For example, the green band is going to show, oh, if there's vegetation on this land or if there's soil moisture. The red is going to show, oh, where the plants absorb light the most for photosynthesis, or where there's a lot of reflection of light from sunlight. And then the red edge, which shows very bright on LD vegetations. So the places that are dark shows that there are very stressed plants that are there. And then for the NIR, which shows vegetation reflection, you can see where the vegetations are mostly. And then you can see the combination from the true color composite. And this is how these different bands of wavelengths are being represented, and how findings from these wavelengths are actually being used to make decisions. So just to combine different bands together, before we get to the most important part, which is called NDVI, whereby you combine different bands together, and then what you get from it will be used to determine, oh, is this plant, is this farm crops, or is this piece of land, are crops that are growing here, are they LD or not? Do they need intervention? I hope you understand. So let me just run this. So I'll be sharing the code because of time. I won't be able to kind of like give us a very run through down. So the aim of combining it together is that once you combine it together, you can see how each of the bands, by combining it together, you can see, oh, vegetation appears red, and then the agricultural composite highlights crop health. So are the crops, are they doing fine? Are some of them on LD, just by you combining the different bands? And you can actually tell, not just by following just one single wavelength, which is the bands. So in precision agriculture, especially in geospatial analysis, geospatial science, especially when it comes to the application of geospatial science in agriculture, there's something they call vegetation indices, which we've been exploring, just like what I said in true color, the first color. So there's a particular metric that is normally being used to ascertain the health of a vegetation. Is plants growing well in this area, and that's what they call the NDVI. So NDVI is when you combine the NIR minus the red band divided by the NIR plus the red band. And also there's also other converse metric, which is called the NDRE. So in analysis, it is very good to explore some of these metrics, and it's also kind of like give you a very use case for each of them. So for NDVI, it's very good for higher and denser vegetation. So the higher the NDVI index of the place, the better it is that you can plant there. That's just a very brief summarization of that. For example, if you take a drone shot of a particular area and you notice that, or maybe you took a picture and then you analyze it and then you discover that, oh, the NDVI is high here, you can take a step further and be sure to say that, oh, in that particular area, there's higher and there's denser vegetation. That means plants that grow there will be healthier. That's just from a remote sensing and geospatial perspective. So if you want to see or do some analysis on some crop, and this crop grow in this particular area, then go, maybe you take a drone imagery of a particular area and then you ascertain and then you run an NDRE analysis on it. And these are a few of the analyses. So these are just standard calculations for it. It's nothing complex, just standard calculations to calculate the indices. And then to visualize the indices, we have a little time for this. So we have the different indices. So from these we can see areas that have a lot of vegetation. And then most of the time you can discover that due to the reflection of the light that is coming out, the palm trees are very obvious. And because the cocoa tree are very compact together, they're a little bit dense in it, and they are usually represented with 0.4, just to show. So you can see the soil adjusted for sparse vegetation based on the representation of that. So histograms are just a way to interpret the indexes. So rather than seeing it on an image format, you can see how the distribution of these numbers, how they fare in terms of representing them using the histogram to see how the indices. So each indices is like a different lens for looking at the health of the plant. And also NDR is used for like an early warning system to see if there's problem first, to ascertain it. And GNDVI is kind of like used for when plants are very thick and green. That's when GNDVI is very useful. So this is just like a brief breakdown of it, just to show where water is, where bare soil is, where moderate vegetation is, and where dense vegetation is. So you can see there's sparse vegetation in some places, and then there's moderate vegetation and very dense vegetation in some cases, based on the index that was captured, on the band that was captured. And then we have the vegetation classification statistics, which shows representation of the land. Here we have the stress detection, which kind of like the NDVI and then the NDR. So judging from the picture, we can see that although they are healthy, there's still a little bit of stress on the plants from the analysis that we've done. So these are kind of like insights. These are kind of like insights we go back to give the farmer that, the plants are doing well, but they could be better. That's just another way to say it. I know since we are analyzing just one image, we can't say so. More or less, like this analysis is still not yet finished because we've not done for the whole plot to ascertain that the aggregation of the result that we got from this is what the result is all about. So this is more or less like an exploration of how we can leverage Python, especially Python, because all the libraries that are being used here, all the visualization tools, all the visualization libraries are all Python. So apart from using Python and the technical parts, this is also showing us the importance of these indices, how it can be used in real life, and how it's being used with real life data also. So especially if there is, if NDRE is high, you can maybe go ahead and take more analysis or make more diagnosis to see if there's any nutrient deficiency in the farm. And it saves time because you are investigating into, you're not just making assumptions, right? So this is the last visualization I'm going to have. So you can see there's a lot of stress judging from the analysis from it. So these are kind of like the practical management advice you can give that, these red and orange areas of this part of the farm, you can walk there and inspect, you can monitor it, and then you can see how better you can make these crops healthier by taking the necessary steps. And that's the whole essence of analysis and geospatial data science. You want to help farmers in this regard make better decisions and take the necessary steps of aid of geospatial drone area imagery and all that. So this is just like a very specific application you can leverage. So if you have a drone, or if you have drone data, drone capture data, you can run your own analysis, for people. That particular data was gotten from the cocoa farm, where they have a lot of cocoa, and then they have a lot of oil palms too, being planted along, and bananas, planting, being planted with this cocoa. And these are kind of like assessment that you can give them, because cocoa is more or less like, it takes like, for cocoa crops, it takes like 5 years or
I
7
got
years. Yeah, I'll be closing very soon.
Okay,
Just five
just to
to wrap up.
inform you that we have less than 7 minutes to wrap up the session. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much. So for most people, 5 years or 6 years, and stress is one of their enemies, as I can uh, one of their enemies. Yes, stress. Cocoa trees don't like stress. And this is one thing you have to watch out as a farmer if you have a cocoa farm. So with the aid of geospatial and drone area imaging, you can know the plants that are being stressed so that you can take the right intervention before your cocoa even starts sprouting fruits from it. So you can also do canopy coverage analysis with these data, all with the aid of Python, because I use Python and I didn't explore all that geospatial tools. And then you can track seasonal changes. So if you take a drone image, let's say May, and you take another drone image sometime in December or January, you can also do a comparison analysis to see how seasonal changes affect your crops. And also in precision management, you can see areas that require more irrigation and more pruning. So as I've said earlier, drone imagery is very useful for precision agriculture. Satellite imagery is also used. Drone imagery is usually more preferred. See individual trees. You can zoom down, you can observe it, and for some particular cameras, you can actually ascertain if a crop has a particular disease or not. So I'm sure this class has been very informative for you. I know you've learned so much about satellite remote sensing. For those who are new to it, unmanned aerial vehicle, which is more or less like a drone. And then we talked about the DJI multispectral system, and we saw examples of images of these different bands. And also we explored different vegetation indices. Because of our time, I couldn't add much details to that, but I'm sure we could get a lot of insights from just a little shipping. And then practical analysis of how we can use Python to do a lot of analysis on it. So drone piloting is another area on its own, and there are usually best practices whenever you're collecting data from drones, because you don't want to collect when there's not enough lighting, which is going to affect the data and the quality of the data. So yeah, so that brings me to the end of the class. I hope you learned and picked up a few things, and thank you uh, for staying with us and enjoying and also learning from this class. Thank you. Over to you, Sarah. All right,
Thank you.
Sarah is doing. All right.
I am here, Godwin. Hi, thank you so much, Godwin. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining this session. I hope you all learned one or two things from today's session. Please keep a watch out for the links to this record. For the recording, we'll be sending it as soon as it is available. So if you have any further questions, you can drop it on the group. Godwin and myself and other team members will be sure to respond to your questions. And as I made mention earlier, this is just one of our communities, and we are just making use of this general platform for our classes. So if you want to join our bespoke geospatial community, my colleague in person of Blessing Gideon will be dropping the link to the geospatial community on the group. So once you get the link, you can join on the group. You can join the group. So also we currently have a mapathon ongoing, which is called the World GIS Day Mapathon, and we encourage you all to make submissions, as there are interesting prizes to be won, and all these you will see on our community group. Thank you so much, everyone, and do follow us on all social media handles on LinkedIn at Data Science Nigeria, on Instagram, on Twitter, and on Facebook. Till we meet again in our next session. Bye-bye.